Well, friends, here we are again, and now it is a great honor for me to introduce Yair Zakovich, professor at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Israel. Professor Zakovich has taught at academic institutions throughout the United States and Europe, including Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, University of California at Berkeley, University of Notre Dame, Columbia University, the Jewish Theological Seminary, the Pontifical Gregorian University, and University of Erlangen. The topic of today's lecture by Professor Zakovich is Visual Similes in the Song of Songs. Dear Professor Zakovich, thank you so much for joining us. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to speak to all of you. It will be quite nice to see some of your faces on the screen. It's always nicer to speak to people and not just speaking in the air. But anyway, yeah, my topic is visual similes in the Song of Songs. Let me start by saying that the Song of Songs is a very unique book. First of all, the name of God is not mentioned in the whole book. Another unique phenomenon is that this book is actually an anthology, a collection of erotic poems, soft erotics, but yet erotics. And in many other ways, it's also very different from everything else we know from the Hebrew Bible. For instance, in the Hebrew Bible, whenever you have a person, a woman who's beautiful, a man who's handsome, you can expect some problems. For instance, we hear that Sarah is beautiful, immediately she's being taken to the house of Pharaoh. Or for instance, Joseph is handsome, and that's why the wife of Potiphar covets him and he finds himself in jail, etc. The same is true for love. Think about who loves whom in the Hebrew Bible. Samson, who loves all these Philistine women, and that's how he reaches his death. Or Solomon, who loves all these foreign women, and he's being punished for it, etc. And even when you have like kosher love in the Hebrew Bible, you can expect problems. For instance, if Jacob loves Rachel, somebody else, Leah, is suffering. Or Elkanah in the book of Samuel, the first chapter of the book of Samuel, loves Hannah, and then Peninnah, his other wife, suffers. On the other hand, in the Song of Songs, everything is fine and everybody is happy. He loves her, she loves him, he's handsome, she's beautiful, and we all enjoy it very much. Another difference from the Song of Songs and the rest of the Bible is that the Hebrew Bible, generally speaking, is a male-oriented book. Think about it, who are the heroes of the Bible? The patriarchs of Israel, and of course Moses and Joshua, and most of the judges and the kings and the prophets. Even there, a woman takes the center of the stage, but actually it's very rare. In the Song of Songs, there is a total equality between men and women, and actually the women actually prevail, because think about it, if you count words that are being said by the men or by the women speak more in the Song of Songs. But there is something even more important than that. Many of the songs in the Song of Songs are actually dialogues between the men and the women. And whenever you have a dialogue, or in most of the cases, the woman has the last word. She's smarter than the man, she's more daring than the man. The last difference between the Song of Songs and the rest of the Bible that I'm going to refer to now is the descriptions. In the Hebrew Bible, there is no description. You don't have description of the views, and you don't have any descriptions of the human body. Yes, we are being told that some people are handsome or beautiful, but that's it. We don't know how they will look. In the Song of Songs, you get full descriptions of the human body. Once you have a description of the male body, and in many other times you have descriptions of the female body. Let me just give you an example, but not from the Song of Songs, to a description of the human body, actually of the female body. In Genesis chapter 12, before Sarah is being taken to the royal palace of Pharaoh, we hear that Sarah was beautiful. But again, we know nothing about her beauty. But in the Genesis Apocryphon is a scroll that has been found in the Judean desert. It's a scroll in Aramaic that retells or paraphrasing the stories of the book of Genesis. And there you have a full description of Sarah's beauty, and let me read it for you. How beautiful the look of her face, and how fine is her hair, how fair indeed her eyes, and how pleasing her nose and all the radiance of her face. How beautiful her breast, and how lovely all her whiteness. Her arms goodly to look upon, and her hands are perfect. All the appearance of her hands, how fair her palms, and how long and fine are all her fingers. Her legs are beautiful, and how without blemish her thighs. And all maidens and all brides that go beneath the wedding canopy are not more fair than she. And above all women is she lovely, and higher in her beauty than of all of them. And with all her beauty, there is much wisdom in her. So she's not only beautiful, but she's also very wise. I'm very pleased to hear that she's also wise, because she is our matriarch, and perhaps we have inherited her genes. Anyway, let's get back to the Song of Songs now. And let me start with 3 questions. And somebody has now to show the text that I have sent you. Is somebody going to show the texts that I have sent you? Yes, very nice. So let's start. We start with text number 1. Text number 1, one of the questions: who is she that comes up from the desert like columns of smoke, in clouds of myrrh and frankincense, of all the powders of the merchants? Look how beautiful this simile is. We don't only look at this beautiful woman, but we always smell the great smells of all these perfumes that come, from either from India or from the Arab peninsula, perfumes that you don't see very much, that are very rare in the land of Israel. So you have the question, but the question has no answer. And the same is true for text number 2, which starts very similar to the way that text number 1 starts. Who is she that comes up from the desert, leaning upon her beloved? We don't have an answer to the question. Very strange. But now let's turn to text number 3. Text number 3, and let's look at the very end of the text. At the very end of text number 3, verse number 10, and there you see that again you have this question: who is she that shines, actually that looks through like the dawn, beautiful as the moon, radiant as the sun, awesome as Bernard hosts? You have the question. Where is the answer? Again, you may think that there is no answer, but this time we do have an answer. But the funny thing is that the answer comes before the question. Verses 1 to 9 are the answer to the question. We'll look at the answer later, but let's start now with verse 10. So move the text a little up so people will see the last verse. No. The end of number 3. The end of number 3. The end of number 3, verse 10. Yes, verse number 10. So the question: who is she that looks through? She looks through a window. It's a very small window through which you see only the face. Like the face is like a picture in the frame of the window. Who is she that looks or shines through like the dawn? Dawn in Hebrew is shachar. And in the word shachar, you hear also shachor, black, meaning shachar is the very, very beginning of the morning when the black is actually being lifted and then you see some light. So the first color we are aware of is the color black. Who is she that shines through like the dawn? Beautiful as the moon. But again, one has to know some Hebrew, and if some of you haven't learned their Hebrew yet, I highly recommend to learn Hebrew as soon as possible, because the word we have here for moon is the female Hebrew word for moon, levana, and in the word levana you hear lavan, the color white. So you have the contrast here. You have both the color black and now you have the color white. And then we hear she's radiant as the sun. And here you have the color red. So you have all three colors now, black and white and red, and awesome as bannered host. Bannered hosts are the heavenly hosts, meaning the army of the divine army. And we are talking, of course, here about the stars. So we have everything together. We have the sun, we have the moon, and we have the stars, all of them together. Those of you who remember the dream of Joseph in Genesis 37, in his dream, he sees everything, all of them together. Again, the sun, the moon, and the stars, where they are all bowing down to him. Anyway, so you see that the woman, or the face of the woman, is compared to all these heavenly stars, sun, moon, and stars. Awesome and as bannered host. He's very afraid of her, meaning he sees her, she reminds him of all these heavenly bodies, and he's quite afraid. Who is she? Who is this woman? And then now we get to verses 4 to 9, and we go back. No, text number 3 from the very beginning of it now. Go down. Oh, here. Yeah. Now we'll see the answer. You may ask, how come the question comes after the answer? Well, sometimes we have accidents. This text or this question, like the two other questions that we have read earlier, at the beginning came without an answer. Somebody wanted to supply an answer to the question, wrote it in the margins of the page, and unfortunately, at the end, another copyist who copied from the older scroll and found this answer in the margins, introduced it in his copy into the wrong place. So let's read now the answer, chapter 6, verses 4 to 9. You are beautiful, my darling, as Tirzah. What's Tirzah? Tirzah is a city. Tirzah actually was the capital of the kingdom of Israel, the northern kingdom, at some point. Why Tirzah of all cities? Why does he mention Tirzah, the author, as a simile, and not Samaria, which was the capital later of the northern kingdom? Because in the word Tirzah, in the name Tirzah, you hear the root Reish Tzadi Hey. She is a desired one. Ken, you are as beautiful as Tirzah, the desired one. Comely as Jerusalem. Again, in the word Jerusalem, or Yerushalayim in Hebrew, Yerushalayim, you hear the root Shin Lamed Mem, Shalem, Mushlam, perfect. She is the desired one. She is the perfect one. And he says, turn your eyes. And she's awesome as Bernard host, which you remember from the question. You see the relationship between the question and the answer. Yes, he is afraid looking at her eyes. He is so very much in love, but she scares him a little. Turn your eyes away from me, for they overwhelm me. Now he's going to describe her face in details. Your hair is like a flock of ghosts streaming down from Gilad. Talking about goats, we are talking about the black goats. The black goats here in the land of Israel. And again, look at the colors you have. You remember that in the question you had the colors black, white, and red. Also in the answer now, we'll see all those three colors. Your hair is like flock of goats streaming down from Gilad. In the Hebrew, we have a word play here. Shegaleshu min ha-Gilad. You hear the Gimel Lamed in consonants being mentioned twice. Your teeth are like a flock of ewes. The ewes, the lambs, if you want, are white. And her teeth are being compared to ewes climbing up from the washing pool. So again, you have the black goat streaming down, the white sheep streaming up, and here again you have a word play, climbing up from the washing pool. Shinaich like rechelim. Rechelim, these are the ewes, and they are coming up from the rachatza. Rechelim, rachatza. You hear the consonants reish and chet being repeated. All of them like twins, and not one loses her young, meaning she has a mouth full of white, beautiful teeth. Well, nowadays it's not a problem. We all have good dentists. But in the good old days, in the biblical time, reaching maturity and having all your teeth in your mouth was almost a miracle. So now we had already the black color and we had the white color. And now we are also going to have the red. Your brow, actually your cheek behind your veil, like a pomegranate split open. Yeah, so here you have the red color. And actually, when you look at the picture of this face, you have to think about two artistic models that are being involved in this picture. First of all, as I said, we have here the face in the window, in the frame of the window, the woman in the window. In quite many biblical stories, you have this picture of the woman in the window. For instance, the story about Rahab, the prostitute from Jericho in Joshua chapter 2, and then Michal, the daughter of Saul, who lets David down through the window to escape from her father. Later on, when she is taken again by David to be his wife, in 2 Samuel chapter 6, she looks down at David from the window. And then you have the description of Jezebel, the wicked wife of King Ahab of Israel. Again, before she dies, we see her face, exactly only her face, through the window in 2 Kings chapter 9, verse 20. That's one model. And by the way, we found in the ancient Near East and also in the land of Israel, in the excavations of Samaria, we find some ivory reliefs with this exact picture, a woman whose face is in the frame of the window. The other picture of the other artistic model that we have here, as we read here, your cheek behind your veil, like a pomegranate split open. We have many statues from the Hellenistic period found all over the area, in which you see half of the woman's face is actually covered with a veil. So our poet, who knows the art of his times very well, uses it in order to describe this beautiful lady. After describing her, talking to her, describing her, he, in the second part of this poem, is actually addressing us. There are 60, from verse number 8 now, there are 60 queens and 80 concubines and damsels without number, meaning there are so many women, so many beautiful women, but only one is my dove, my perfect one. As I said earlier, when he compares her to Jerusalem, in the name Jerusalem, you hear Shalem, Mushlam, perfect. So indeed, she is my perfect one, the only one of her mother, the delight of her who bore her. Maidens see and acclaim her, queens and concubines, and praise her. That's really a miracle. We are used to men praising the beauty of a woman, but here we have women praising the beauty of the woman. By the way, it's very interesting because this last verse, I'm sorry, this last verse number 9, about the women actually praising her beauty, should remind us about a verse in the poem Eshet Chayil in Proverbs chapter 31. Eshet Chayil, the woman of valor that many men sing for their wives before Shabbat. And there we read, her sons acclaim her, her husband praise her. But there, it is the men, or these are the men who praise the woman, and they don't praise her for her beauty, they praise her for being industrious. In Eshet Chayil, we read that grace is deceptive, beauty is illusory. It is for the fear of the Lord that a woman is to be praised. I think, by the way, that Eshet Chayil was written as a polemics against the Song of Songs. Oy vey, in the Song of Songs, women are praised for their beauty. It shouldn't be done. A woman should be praised only for her fear of the Lord, Yirat Adonai. So you see that as I said, the questions comes at the end, the answer follows it, and I think it's a result of an accident. But all these three questions, what do they tell me? I think that there was a custom in a wedding ceremony that somebody came up with the question, who is she that, etc. And both the husband or the future husband and also the audience, people were encouraged to come up with answers, to praise the beauty of the bride. And we know from later times, and that's now text number 4, please move on to text number 4, yes, exactly. Text number 4, you see that in later times, we are aware of this custom. In the Babylonian Talmud, Tractate Ketubot, 16b to 17a, we read, our rabbis taught, how does one dance before the bride? Actually, how does one describe the beauty of the bride? And here you have a conflict between the two famous houses or halachic streams, halachic houses, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Beit Shammai say the bride as she is, meaning if you are going to describe her exactly as she is, don't exaggerate. And Beit Hillel say, beautiful and graceful bride. You should always describe her as if she is the most beautiful woman. Bet Shammai says to Beit Hillel, if she was lame or blind, does one say to her, beautiful and graceful bride? Whereas the Torah said, keep thee far from false matter, midvar sheker tircha. Said Beit Hillel to Beit Shammai, according to your words, if one has made a bad purchase in the market, should one praise it in his eyes or depreciate it? Surely one should praise it in his eyes, meaning let them feel good about what they've purchased. Therefore, the sages said, always should the disposition of man be pleasant with people. Always try to be nice. And here we have also at the very end of this paragraph, we have this tradition. When Rabbi Dini came, meaning when he came from Eretz Israel, from Palestine to Babylon, he testified, he said, that they sing before the bride in the West. The West is Eretz Israel. No powder and no paint and no waving of her hair, and still a graceful gazelle, meaning all, even without cosmetics, without creams, without paints, without anything, all brides are as beautiful as graceful gazelles. And gazelle, by the way, in the Song of Songs, you find the gazelle many, many times. Now, you see that these three questions that we have dealt with, in many ways are like riddles. Somebody asks a question and people are encouraged to come up with the answer. And perhaps, who knows, perhaps the one who came up with the best description, the most beautiful description, the most innovating description, perhaps he even got a prize, who knows. Anyway, there are many other songs within the Song of Songs that are like riddles. You can read it one way and then actually read it again and find out that the second reading or the meaning of the second reading is very different from the way you have interpreted this question or this riddle the first time you read it. Let me give you a few examples and we move first to text number 5. Text number 5, please. Yes, text number 5. Text number 5, there are a lot of tensions there between the woman who comes from, like a village woman who comes and talks to the ladies in the palace in Jerusalem. There is tension there between the woman, the village woman, and her brothers, etc. When she's presenting herself and she says, I'm black, but comely. I'm black. What does it mean to be black? To be black, we know it from other verses in the Bible. When you are black, it means that your skin is not very healthy because it was exposed to the sun. So it's very dry. For instance, in the book of Job, chapter 30, verse 30, we read, my skin blackened and peeling of me. My bones are charred by the heat, etc. So she is apologizing. Look, I was exposed to the sun, but still I'm beautiful. I'm black but comely, O daughters of Jerusalem. She's talking to the ladies of Jerusalem who are in the palace, who never leave the palace, and their skin is very healthy and very white. So she apologizes. I'm black like the tents of Kedar. The tents of Kedar. Kedar is this Bedouin tribe, like a tribe of nomads. And this tribe, Kedar also, the root Kuf Daled Reish means black, dark. And they're being referred to as Kedar because they live in tents, and the tents are being made from the wool of the black goats. So that's why they're Kedar. But still, I'm beautiful like the pavilions of Solomon. Well, identifies herself also with the wealth and the glory of Solomon. Don't stare at me because I'm swarthy. If I tell you now, don't stare at me before I'm bald, because I'm bald, immediately you think about me now being bald. So that's very funny that she says, don't look at me because I'm swarthy, because now they pay attention to the fact. And now she explains, why is she black? Because the sun has gazed upon me. Actually, because the sun has burned me. My mother's sons quarreled with me. By the way, in the Middle East, even nowadays, the sons are in charge of the honor of the family. If, for instance, one of their sisters don't behave well, it's the sons, it's the brothers who have to make sure that she will behave her. Many times in the Middle East, it ends in a very bitter way. I don't want to expand on it. And what we hear here is that my mother's sons quarreled with me. Actually, they also burned me. They made me guard the vineyard. My own vineyard I did not guard. What is a vineyard? A vineyard can be a vineyard, but those of you who know the language of the Song of Songs or the world of similes and metaphors of the Song of Songs know that vineyard in the Song of Songs can also refer to a woman and also to a certain organ in the female body. And what she says here, that they have sent her to guard the vineyard, the real vineyard, because she has not guarded her own vineyard, meaning that certain organ in her body. And you don't know what came first. First, they sent her away to guard the vineyards, and that's why she was free to do whatever she wanted to do and did not guard her own vineyard. Or perhaps she did not guard her own vineyard, and in order to punish her, they sent her far, far away to keep the vineyard. So the first way we read this, poem, the short poem, it sounds as if this lady who comes from a village, a farmer, is apologizing. She feels, she compares herself to the woman of Jerusalem, and she suffers from an inferiority complex. I'm not as good as you, I'm black, etc. My skin is dry, and you are so beautiful. But there is a very different way to read this poem. I said we started by saying I'm black but calmly, but in Hebrew, Shorani venava, we can read it, I'm black and calmly. And what does she mean now? What's the other way to understand black? For instance, if we read in the book of Kohelet, in Ecclesiastes, chapter 11, verse 10, we read, for youth and black hair and blackness are fleeting. Being black, meaning being young. Being young, as long as your hair is still black, you're young. So she's coming now, and actually she's very proud of herself. And she says, I'm black, I'm young and beautiful. And black like the tents of Kedar. And that's also something very nice. Look, these ladies of Jerusalem, as I said, they never leave the palace. They are like prisoners in the palace. She, the farmer, is a woman of the great world. She can see what they can never see. Just remember that in those good days, they had no TV. They could not see movies or anything or any pictures of the world. And she, coming to Jerusalem, knows much more, and she has seen much more than they have seen. Actually, you can read it as if she is not apologizing, but very proud of herself. She's also proud of the fact, I'm free to do whatever I want. I did not guard my own vineyard. I'm free to do with it whatever I want. And you in the palace in Jerusalem can't make one move without being watched, by the authorities in the palace. So you see two different ways to read a poem. Let's move to number 6 now. Number 6, another poem that we can read in two different ways. Starts with the girl. Here we have a dialogue between the girl and the man. And the girl is saying, I'm Rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. Meaning she compares herself to a flower. Lilies of Sharon, Rose of Sharon, lily of the valleys, and these are very common flowers. She's not comparing herself to a rare flower like whatever, a tulip or any other rare flower, but very common ones. What does she expect after she compares herself to a very simple, common flower? Her boyfriend now, when he hears this comparison she has made, he thinks that she's fishing for compliments. And that's why he says, oh, if you compare yourself to a lily, then all other girls in comparison to you are like thorns. Like a lily among thorns, so is my darling among the maidens. And he's so very proud of himself for giving her this answer, for giving her this compliment. But she hears them and she says, oy vey, the guy has not understood what I really meant. But this is her boyfriend. She doesn't have another one. She has to, what can she do? So she gives him a very similar compliment now. Like an apple tree among trees of the forest, and trees of the forest don't bear fruit. So, like an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the youth. Like an apple tree. All other boys like trees of the forest that don't bear fruit, but you are like an apple tree which does bear fruit. But she doesn't stop here. She continues and she says, I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my mouth. Meaning, you see how daring she is. First of all, she has the last word, and she doesn't stop with saying that he's like an apple tree, but she goes on talking about eating the fruit of love. And that's what she actually wanted him to get to at the beginning. Let's make love. Let's talk about making love. Well, what did she really expect when she compared herself to these flowers? What does a girl who tells you that she's like a flower, what does she expect? We can know it from text number 7. Let's look at text number 7 and we'll get the answer. In text number 7, the daughters of Jerusalem are talking to our girl. And they ask her, whither has your beloved gone, O fairest of women? Whither has your beloved turned? Let's seek him with you. My beloved has gone down to his garden, to the beds of spice, to browse in the gardens and to pick lilies. I am a beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He browses among the lilies. You see, what does a girl, when a girl tells you that she is like a lily, she expects you to pluck her as you see here. And he went down to browse in the gardens and to pick lilies, meaning she wanted him to pick her, to pluck her, and of course, to make love with her. But since he did not understand, she had to continue until she made it very clear that she is talking about eating the fruit of love. Let's read another text, another riddle. Text number 8. Text number 8. Text number 8. Actually, this is the very end of the Song of Songs. And it's very surprising when you read it. Oh, you who linger in the garden. The young man is talking to the young lady. Oh, you who linger in the garden. She's in the garden. And you know that the garden is actually surrounded by some fence. One cannot see her in the garden. And he says to her, oh, you who linger in the garden, friends are listening to your voice. Well, he brought with him a group of young men. He's so proud that he has this beautiful girlfriend, and he wants everybody, well, they cannot see her, but at least he wants everybody to enjoy her pretty voice. Friends are listening to your voice. He doesn't say my friends, he says friends. They are my friends, they are your friends, they are our friends. Let me hear it. He's very careful. The friends are here to hear your voice, but you are singing for me. Let me hear it. And what is the answer? Escape, my beloved. Go away. Escape, my beloved. Swift as a gazelle or a young stag to the hills of spices. Oy vey. Escape. She's so very angry with him for bringing all his friends to listen to her voice. So I'm so angry with you, so you'd better escape. And please escape as quickly as you can. Be like a gazelle or a young stag. These are the quickest animals we know. And she tells him where to run to, where to escape to the hills of spices. And that's the end of the book. Surprise, surprise. I didn't expect the Song of Songs to end with separation between the lovers. And there is something else that I don't quite get here. When I'm angry with somebody, it happens here and there, I don't tell this person, my beloved. When you're angry with somebody, you send him to, first of all, you don't tell him that he's your beloved. And B, when you're angry with somebody, you don't send him to the hills of spices. You send him to hell. The hills of spices, immediately you have this positive reaction because it smells so good. So something doesn't work here. Or perhaps we haven't really understood the meaning of this poem, and that's the riddle. So perhaps she's saying to him something else. Escape, my beloved, but don't escape from me, perhaps. In order to understand it well, what is the real meaning of this poem, we have to look now at text number 9. Yeah, text number 9, you see that in some ways this verse is similar, chapter 2, verse 17 is similar to our verse. When the day blows gently and the shadows flee, set out, my beloved, swift as a gazelle or a young stag for the hills of spices. By the way, in the Hebrew text, it's not written here, the hills of spices, but to the split hills. The translator didn't know what to do with it. Arei vater. Arei vater, meaning split hills, two hills that are separated by a valley. That's where she sent him here in chapter 2, verse 17. not the hills of spices, but to the split hills or the split mountains. Those of you who have not understood yet what she is really meaning should look now at the next text, text number 10. Text number 10, as I said earlier, in the Song of Songs, we have many descriptions of the female body. And here you have the end of a description. The description starts in chapter 4, the description starts with her head, with her hair, etc., etc. And then at verse 5, the man gets to talk about her breasts. Your breasts are like two fawns, twins of the gazelle, browsing among the lilies. When the day blows gently and the shadows flee, you see how similar it is to chapter 2, verse 17. Take me to the mount of myrrh, to the hill of frankincense. Every part of you is fair, my darling, there is no blemish in you. But of course, you see, he's talking about her breasts, and the breasts are these hills of perfumes. So if we get back now to chapter 8, verses 13 and 14, we understand that when she told him to escape, she didn't tell him, escape from me because I'm angry, but escape from your friends. Come to me and enjoy and have fun with the hills of perfumes, which are actually my breasts. If he understood, if he could solve the riddle, fine. If he could not solve it, well, he's not worthy being her boyfriend because he's too stupid. Anyway, you see that if you understand this riddle well, you understand it as an invitation and not as a command to escape, then the Song of Songs, the book, does not end with their separation, but by them being together and enjoying their love. The last example, text number 11, another riddle. We have a little sister. Who's talking here? The brothers. We have already seen in chapter 1, verses 5 and 6, that it's the brothers, the mother's sons, that have to take care of the family's honor, to guard their sister. They are responsible for her. And here you see the tension in this short poem. Again, you see the tension between the brothers and their sister. They're talking at the first half of the poem. The brothers are talking about their sister. And they say, we have a little sister. But the question is, what is little? Is she young? Or perhaps she's not that young anymore, but she has her body has not developed yet. She does not show yet any signs of maturity, of sexual maturity. We have a little sister whose breasts are not yet formed. Oy vey, they say. Our sister has not yet developed her breasts. What shall we do for our sister when she is spoken for? Meaning, being spoken for, meaning some man can come tomorrow and ask us to give him our sister as a bride, and we will be embarrassed because our sister is not developed yet. The brothers are talking about their sister, but we don't know if they know that she is listening, or perhaps they don't. If they know that she is listening, they're actually trying to embarrass her. But she is much smarter than they are. But we haven't read yet what they had to. They continue their speech. Now, how are they going to deal with the problem when she is spoken for? If she be a wall, we will build upon it a silver battlement. If she be a wall, what do they mean if she be a wall? Two ways to understand it. If she behaves well, meaning doesn't play with other men, if she is like a wall of the city, she doesn't let men in, then we will build upon it a silver battlement. First of all, think about it. Men are always thinking in military terms. A wall, a battlement. Women don't speak this way. Only Israelis who serve in the army think this way. So if she be a wall, she'll protect herself. We will build upon it a silver battlement, meaning like a piece of jewelry that looks like a necklace that, or big necklace that looks like a battlement. If you know the story about Rabbi Akiba, who actually made Jerusalem of gold for his wife. And that's exactly this kind of jewelry. But you can also understand it that when they say, if she is a wall, they mean if she is flat as a wall, meaning because her breasts have not yet been formed, so we will have to make some camouflage. We'll have to hide the fact that she is far from being perfect, and we'll do it by giving her this piece of jewelry that will hide the problem. Another option, they say, if she be a door, and if she be a door, you can understand it, that they mean if she is opening her door, if she lets everybody else in, then we will panel it with cedar. Cedar is the stronger kind of wood. We'll have to block the wall to the door with a piece of cedar to prevent all these men from coming in. And now comes the answer of the young lady. You have given me, she says, two options, either being a wall or being a door. So let me tell you, I'm a wall. Meaning I know how to protect myself very well. But my dear brothers, a long time has passed since you have last looked at me, because my breasts are like towers. I'm not flat. I've already developed. But you see that she's using the same type of language, because if they use military language, she's also using military language. My breasts are like towers. So I became in his eyes, in his eyes, as one who finds peace. In his eyes, whose eyes are you talking about? There is a man in the picture. I already have my boyfriend. I already have the man I'm going to marry. And in his eyes, I am as a one who finds peace. No more war, no more bloodshed. For him, I'm ready to open my gate, to open my door. And it should remind us of the laws of war in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 20, verse 11. If you are going to conquer a city, and it responds peacefully and lets you in. And that's exactly the terminology this young lady uses. You see, she has the last word. She totally surprises her brothers They think that they have to care for her, to take care of her. And she says, I'm independent. I can take of myself, care of myself, and I've already taken care of myself. I already have the man I would like to marry. So you see all these riddles, all these texts that you can read one way or another, all these riddles that have these beautiful visual similes in them are full of tensions between the lovers, between the young women and their brothers, between village women and city women. But in all these texts, you see that actually there is a great sense of humor. There is a great sense of humor in the text, and when you read it, actually, you find yourself, at least I find myself, smiling. Love and erotics are smile always help us to deal with these serious matters. That's all I want to say to you. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer before we say goodbye.
Thank you so much, Professor Zakovich, for this amazing lecture. After the festival, I must definitely listen to it again. Now, dear friends, I have just a few minutes left to change. And then at 2 p.m. German time, I will be happy to welcome you to our next practice session dedicated to traditional Eastern European music of Ashkenazic Jews, which we better know as klezmer music. I will be happy to host this workshop together with a friend, colleague, and mentor of mine since many years, Dr. Alan Byrne. See you soon.